Hi, everyone, and welcome to another TrialSiteNews interview. I'm your host, Brandon, and today we'll be talking to John Dwyer, the president of the Global Alzheimer's Platform Foundation, or GAP. John is a co-founder of several Alzheimer's-related groups, including Us Against Alzheimer's and the Alzheimer's Action PAC, the first political action committee focused on a specific disease. Today we'll be discussing the recent news of GAP and Circular Genomics announcing their partnership to analyze Biohermes 1 samples, aiming to transform Alzheimer's diagnosis and treatment through circular RNA biomarkers. John, thank you so much for joining us today.
Great to be here, Brandon. Thank you for inviting me.
We already hear about blood tests, PET scans, and other diagnostic tools. What gap are you hoping circular RNA technology can fill?
One of the most exciting elements of Alzheimer's research and neurology increasingly is the prolific growth in biomarkers in general. And blood markers, blood assays that are using blood plasma to determine the presence of certain proteins have for the last 7 years been of enormous productive interest. And as you would expect, we've now started to see additional methods for measuring the presence of disease or other pathologies that we couldn't measure previously with blood plasma that we now know exist and are contributing probably to dementia. And the RNA technology, the circular genomics, is bringing forward. Early days, but we are very confident that their methods are sound, their strategy of focusing on RNA signals is well understood in cancer, for example, and RNA technology had a lot to do with the fast production of COVID vaccines. So we know it's a very powerful and flexible mechanism for providing insights into underlying conditions. And we're not going to call balls and strikes on it till we see the results, but we're thrilled to be a partner to Circular Genomics as they go forward.
You had access to data for more than 1,000 participants across diverse communities. What makes this data set uniquely important for your research?
Foundationally, we need to be testing therapies and diagnostic tools and demonstrate to patients and the regulators that they work for everyone. And historically, our selection process, our recruitment process, has been way over skewed to Caucasian patients. There's lots of reasons for that, none of which are particularly pernicious. But if you're a traditional tertiary hospital system, you don't often find those located in underserved communities. By definition, they're well-served communities if they're a tertiary hospital. And it was our goal when we started Biohermes 1 to make sure that we could, with a straight face, say our 1,000 people directionally reflect the same percentage of folks that have the disease of Alzheimer's or dementia in the overall population. And in Biohermes 1, we had an initial goal of a minimum of 20% non-white in the study. We actually ended up with 24. We're proud of that. And that 24% gives everyone, including Circular Genomics, some statistical and scientific basis to say we tried it on the Biohermes samples, and we can demonstrate reliably that it was repeatable and consistent across all racial and ethnic communities embedded in that 1,000 people. That's why it's important.
How much earlier might someone learn they're at risk for Alzheimer's if technologies like this prove successful?
I've got to frame that question with, especially given your background, with a process context. Until recently, we could only give a definitive diagnosis of the presence of amyloid plaque, a protein that's well understood to be part of the Alzheimer's pathology chain cascade, by giving the patient a PET exam, which is a big image procedure, both expensive and in a big piece of equipment that aren't everywhere. I have a phrase I use, which is superior care is the care you can get access to. And so we believe that the blood plasma tests, the CSF, spinal fluid tests, and technologies like circular genomics are profoundly important to giving access to a qualified diagnostic experience with to literally uh, as much as 40% more of the country as we in terms of geography, because about 40% of the country cannot get a PET or tau image because either the PET machines aren't there or the ligands that you need to conduct those examinations aren't there. But blood is an easy thing to extract and it's an easy thing to test. That's why this is important. I don't know if it's going to be earlier, Brandon. I just think we're going to give more access to more people to understand their underlying condition. So it's earlier because more people are going to know.
So there's a line in the press release that says precision medicine. So what exactly does precision medicine for Alzheimer's mean?
Let me give you another running start. In October of 2023, so it was nearly 3 years ago, Dr. Richard Hodis, the director of the National Institute of Aging, said at a important conference, uh, the fact that dementia is likely caused by more than just one pathology underlying the causes of the dementia. And that would be the rule, not the exception, based on the field's understanding of the underlying science. So if you look at this as a tree of causality, we are getting pretty good at using blood tests to determine the presence of amyloid plaque and tau, the first two uh, proteins that are prevalent in the traditional Alzheimer's pathology tree, uh, and the causality of pure Alzheimer's. I call it pure Alzheimer's because it's the uh, disease without any conflating other pathology, excuse me, other pathologies. We know there are other things lurking in the neurological causality tree that are not yet easy to identify in blood or CSF even, but we still have to rely on images for, or we can't figure it out at all yet. I don't want to cause despondency, but there can be probably four, five, six total relatively common pathologies that are creeping up into the physiology of people, showing signs and symptoms consistent with dementia. And our goal at GAP is to be able to identify and characterize all of them. Now, with the help of existing blood tests, of which they just get better generally, and the emerging blood tests like circular genomics, we can be more precise with what is the actual um, physiology and underlying pathologies within patients showing signs and symptoms of dementia. And if they have co-pathologies, now the scientists have got to figure out which one is dominant. Or if you take one out, are you still going to see more or less progression or no progression at all? These are all foundationally exciting questions, but we don't have answers to them. But at least we can start to say what the background noise is on the patients as we look at them with more precision. That's precision medicine at its best. And I'm happy to report that in BioHermes 1 and the sister study BioHermes 2, we are marching forward with blood tests and advanced imaging that will provide more insights into white matter disease, hypertension, and diabetes or other inflammatory diseases, contribution to dementia. We don't expect to have all the answers, but we plan to narrow the field of question in some of these areas. Alpha-synuclein, which is very common in Parkinson's, is also common in Alzheimer's, but we don't see it measured in Alzheimer's, and yet we have reason to believe it does contribute to the disease. So, in short, the more we can identify the underlying pathologies, the more we're going to know how to treat with precision.
What's the biggest breakthrough you hope comes from this collaboration with Circular Genomics?
It's a really good technology with really good leaders in it. My hope is they will add a highly uh, sensitive and specific way to better define some of this mixed pathology that we have been describing. They might be able to detect it earlier. We might just be better to differentiate what the underlying condition is. But my hope is that they're going to fill some voids in the ability to measure this uh, uh, forest of pathologies we know are lurking in the dementia environment and do so with the same um, very promising care profile. We're using blood in circular genomics to get the answers. That is a terrific medium to try and do this work.
So, John, if you could look in your crystal ball for a minute, 5 years from now, how do you think Alzheimer's diagnosis and treatment will look different than it does today?
So dementia is an umbrella term for a set of signs and symptoms that in the past and not too distant past, if you looked at Alzheimer's facts and figures and other neurological documentation, they would tell you, because that was what we knew back then, that Alzheimer's disease, amyloid, tau, neuroinflammation cascade was 60, 70% of the patients that make up dementia cases. I can already tell you, Brandon, that's not the case anymore. As we've learned to be more discerning and specific about these underlying conditions that are driving dementia, ATN, Alzheimer's disease as we define it today, may very well be under 50% of the cases. Uh, Moreover, those other cases aren't Alzheimer's, but related diseases, PSP, FTD, DLB, Lewy bodies, and I probably left a couple out. But if you add all those up, in terms of the percent of the population that have those conditions, the diseases that Bruce Willis has, and similarly for Lewy bodies, others have recently disclosed, we could see as much as over half of the dementia cases being better characterized, better understood, developing therapies to target those, or a broad therapeutic solution that cuts at the roots of all of those diseases and brings them back down. I'm thinking about GLP-1s, for example, or neuroinflammation therapeutic advances that might cut the roots out of this neurological progression and help reduce the risk of all the diseases I just mentioned. And I see that more quality therapies will be in front of us. Give me 5 to 10 years, and it's going to be a much richer set of options for patients. Right up next to Parkinson's, and Parkinson's coming our way, and we're going towards Parkinson's from the Alzheimer's dementia field. Uh, Neurology patients have a lot more to look forward to, and in the not too distant future.
That's great to hear. John Dwyer, the president of the Global Alzheimer's Platform Foundation, thanks so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Enjoy your weekend.
And for unbiased news and opinion articles and the latest in scientific research, please visit TrialSiteNews.com. Also follow us on YouTube, Rumble, and X.